Okay, for those, actually, you probably should let folks in. I bet there's people in the waiting room. Let your husband know to try again. Yeah. We have 5 people in the waiting room.
Do you have to re-motion? No.
I'm gonna summarize what happened
Okay.
for folks that weren't here.
This guy, well, yeah, you know, here, you learn.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, protocol.
We're popular.
Yeah, protocol should tell you who you are.
Okay, sorry, everyone. We started the wrong Zoom. But we're in the right Zoom now. Just to catch everyone up who's online, we've done no real business except for, we've moved the processing of the minutes to the end so that anyone who doesn't care to be around for that part does not have to stay. So, and we've also, made a motion to reopen public hearing for 47 Parrot. So we're gonna jump straight into that. And I think we're good to go. So I will go ahead and jump back into recapping what has happened since we last all met and discussed this. So a few things that have happened. We received 3 new written comments. And I believe we have an amended site plan that was submitted last week. And has been on the village website for since then. And so probably it makes the most sense to start with our applicant reviewing the changes.
Sure.
There's paper copies here. I don't know.
Yes, you got it.
I thought I could bring it up here for
Sure.
everyone to see also online.
Yeah. I would, you need to grant him share permission.
I thought it would make sense to. Oops. Did you want me to only show the changes?
Whatever narrative you feel like is most coherent. And I don't mind
Okay.
if you repeat yourself, but
I will just walk through and then skip. Skip sort of as needed. I just wanted to go over just the zoning conformance chart because I wanted to just check it over myself, but just to be clear for everyone, there's no proposed change to all of the existing conforming zoning requirements. There is one existing non-conforming, which is the setback of the existing stone garage. And I think the reason why I just wanted to reiterate that is that I think it's important to note that the client, I think we all recognize that it's a beautiful structure. We know we're not in the historic district. There's no requirement to preserve it or anything, but we're working with that existing building in order to be as respectful and as responsive to the existing building fabric as possible. this is just to, I think most people are pretty familiar, but just to go quickly through, if you haven't been, this is the existing house, and then from the street, there's a view, you can kind of make out that stone, but it's kind of it's a similar stone building material that you see kind of throughout Cold Spring. And this is the existing garage, and the intent is, even, again, there's no requirement to do this, but even on that front facade, when we get to the elevations, you'll see there's an attempt to really work with the existing fabric, and even try to we can't use those existing doors, but we can recreate a wall that has that characteristic. So I'll just go through some of these pictures. That's the existing rear, and then Aaron, my business partner, is the landscape architect who did some drawings to show how we'll work with that rear area to alleviate some of the concerns regarding some of the existing landscaping. So this is the existing site, and I think, so this gets into some of the additional information that we have. There was a lot of concerns brought up at the previous meeting regarding the sewer, and obviously that's something that we need to take into account regardless. We spoke with Matt Krug, who had some information, but he wasn't familiar. I think there's an existing sewer map of the village, but this is a blank area on that map. He did allude to a 6-inch plastic line somewhere between Parrot and West Bank. So we contracted with Al Tice at Aldrain, who came out and did a sewer scoping. So can you make it out? I apologize, I'm used to reading a million lines, but if you can see it, it's on your drawing, it's in green.
Yeah.
But you can see there's so I think so there was some talk about the why, and that is what we found. The good news is that he found and flagged an existing sewer running approximately in this location. Another important point that Matt Krug brought up in my telephone call was that, because there had been some discussion of capacity issues, he didn't bring up any capacity issues, and his only response was that since he's been on the job since 2018, he hasn't experienced a backup in that area. So that's that particular concern. He said he may run it by the village engineer, but we haven't heard further. My assumption is that that's something that we will run into also when we actually apply for a building permit, but I just wanted to say that we have been responsive to that concern. And then I also wanted to speak a little bit to the existing zoning, as we alluded to last meeting, is there's a allowable, in the new zoning, there's allowable accessory apartment, as long as you are conforming to the existing, or excuse me, to the zoning setback bulk lot coverage requirements. I wanted to just point out, this isn't a tiny house, but it's certainly, in terms of, as I mentioned before, in terms of lot coverage, and in terms of really making a dwelling that is comfortable for the family members who are intending to live there. It's given the height requirements, which are really, you really can only do 1 story. I think we're I think it would be hard pressed to say that this isn't a reasonably sized accessory apartment and placed on the site in such a way that's respectful of the existing building fabric. So this is just a closer look. This is maybe more of that. It's essentially a kitchen, dining. There's a bedroom, and then there's sort of a study slash reading room. But from a square footage perspective, it's certainly reasonable and within the what one would expect for an accessory apartment. So this is, I think I alluded to, this is existing building garage elevations. So this hasn't changed. There was some question about lighting. So the exterior lighting that's new and proposed for the structure is a dark sky compliant shaded light that wouldn't spread light onto neighboring properties, just would provide light for the occupants and occupant safety. And again, in that front facade on the upper elevation, you can see that we've gone to lengths to be respectful and to I don't want to say replicate, but to continue the concept of the existing building fabric. Similarly, on the side, there was a concern about windows. That window C is an existing window opening. All the other windows are high, and they're not windows conducive to, to gazing out to your neighbor's properties. And then also in terms of existing fabric, we haven't talked to the roofer, but the intent is to again maintain the slate roof. So there's been a lot of work and intent to be responsive to and protective of the existing building fabric and neighborhood character. And then I'll just skip ahead, other than speaking to building height, which again we're not increasing. And similarly, the addition would essentially tuck behind the existing structure. So then I think one of the main, other than the sewer and light, which I think we've addressed to the extent that we can at this point in the process, one of the big concerns was the potential loss of a few. There was a
Ethan,
yeah, maybe Aaron can speak.
yeah, if it's okay, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I can just weigh in just on the planting plan. I know there was I wasn't at the last meeting, but I know there was concern about the loss of a tree, which is always a sad event. The good news is it's a Colorado blue spruce, and so even though it's a tree that supports carbon sequestration and photosynthesis, it doesn't really support any of like local flora and local critters and pollinators. And so what we're attempting to do is to just, and then the forsythia, same deal, they're beautiful, but they don't really support any of the pollinators. So the thought is that we would replace the forsythia, and the other Colorado blue spruce will remain, and they will, given the space with the other one coming down, they will replace, just in terms of the vibe of the trees, they're being dwarfed by each other. Once you take that one out, the other will stand in and grow bigger. So that will happen. And then also we're kind of just doing, it's like a hedgerow, in the British sense of a hedgerow, just kind of a mix of native trees and native shrub, basically large shrubs, to kind of buffer, all of them blooming with white flowers, and then an understory of bee balm and different beneficial plants. So it'll kind of be beautiful in all seasons, red berries in the winter. And again, they're all kind of beneficial native plants. Ethan, if you want to just go through to the next slide. So that's just a quick rendering of like what it will look like. There's a viburnum, 2 winterberries, and then these are choke cherries, don't be alarmed by their name. They don't choke anyone. I don't know why they're called that. But they're just, they have beautiful red berries in the winter. And then the understory would be native understory with bee balm and kind of blooming in all season. It'll actually be more interesting all year than what is currently there. Forsythia is just a one-off. And then if you go through, keep going, that's just a bloom time color chart to just show you that it will bloom in all the seasons. And then the next slide is my favorite, which is the earthly gifts of this, which is, you know, more information than is needed, but these are all the pollinators and beings that are supported by the replacement plants. So butterflies and insects and birds alike. That's all. That's that part.
And this is in the drawing set if you want to, it's kind of hard to see up there, but
Can I just ask who she was? Who that speaker was?
oh, sorry, that's so we are the Figure Ground Studio, so I'm an architect, Aaron's a landscape architect. We're also married, but I'm just saying, so we have that other relationship, but we work together. And so we wouldn't always do a planting plan, but because that was a particularly, I mean, sorry, on a project at this point, but because that was obviously a concern, and we have our own.
Associate,
I'm sorry, what?
did you hire her as an associate?
Well, we work together, like on
Yeah.
every project.
Well, I wish we know who's here, that's what I'd like to know.
My name is
Know the gentleman?
Ethan Tim, and
I
this
know
is,
you the last time, I don't know the chairman, I don't think anybody else does either.
so I'd say, so we're the Figure Ground Studio.
I know what you're here for,
Okay.
tell me your name up there. But, I mean, there's no protocol, we don't know, even know who we're talking to here.
Understood, but please wait until we get to the public comment period.
So, I don't know, Aaron, did you have anything else?
No,
Yeah.
I just figured I would just kind of share what
People
our
may not have seen a bloom time color chart, so this is a list of the plants that are shown in, so here, this is a drawing showing the, so I'll go back here. This shows the accessory apartment with the addition. And currently there's some grasses, and then there's 2 forsythia and a Colorado blue spruce, or and this is showing a more a concept for a more significant planting, including potentially a small herb garden next to the back door. And then this shows the view from the neighboring property that indicates some screening and also additional visual interest. And then what this is so on the top you can see that shows December through November with the different seasons. And then this is a list of the plants that were indicated on that planting plan. And then the graphics are showing the visual, so it's bloom time and color, but also the additional aspects of that are the visual interest, which includes not just the flowering times, which are the various colors, but sometimes there's also visual interest with the seed heads, or in the winter with the like, for example, with the Job highweed or the switchgrass, there's visual interest even through the winter. And then furthermore, on the last page, what Aaron alluded to with the earthly gifts are both, for example, so for example, what the issue, so it wouldn't be that we would maybe, we're even leaving, or would propose with this plan to leave a few of the Colorado blue spruce, but the point is that in this environment, they don't necessarily provide the broad benefit that some of these other plants could. So we understand that it's a potential detriment to take out some of these plants, and that the goal, and this is a goal of ours always, is to then essentially leave things better than we found them. I don't know if Aaron, if you had anything to add or,
Nope,
but
that
that's
was
essentially.
well said.
Thank you. Just so the board membership and my chairmanship is on the village website, but I want to introduce the board to everyone just so that we're all on first name basis.
Well, I didn't look at the website.
I understand. That's why we're doing it now. I'm Jesse. I'm the chair.
Henry,
Kevin.
and
We're joined by Jonathan, who's the village attorney.
Sorry.
We have Abigail, who's our faithful board secretary. And Hillary Hart is joining us online. She's also a board member.
The reason my question that was, I mean, I didn't look to see who's who.
Yeah.
Who's the native? So they natives on this board?
Well, everyone on this board is required to be a resident of the
I
village,
didn't ask that question.
a native.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Now, would you know the history of the village of Robert or Challenger?
Everyone on this board has taken their charge to represent the community here very seriously. So I don't think that is especially relevant.
I think it is. And I think another thing is relevant, is relevant.
well, we had to apply. We had to submit.
Hold on,
Yeah.
we're not gonna,
There is.
we're not gonna engage this. Okay, this is not related to this application.
It certainly is.
It is not. And if I have to ask you to stop again, I'm gonna have to ask you to leave. Okay?
You'll have to get a cop. Let me leave.
I will have to do that, and I don't want to. I want us to have a very civil
Well, why
conversation.
don't you answer my question, then we wouldn't have to have this conversation, I mean.
Whether or not someone is a native of the village is not relevant.
Let's move on. We're gonna get to additional questions from the public in a second. And we have some written comments from the community. I'm gonna read a couple of them, and then we'll have some additional questions for the applicant. So we have a letter from Bernard Boone. Apologies if I'm butchering your last name, at 44 Parrot Street. Writing today to show support for the plans, proposed plans in addition at 47 Parrot Street. My family welcomes any house on our street that supports generational living. The proposed space is intended as the grandparents to live on premises. We have met our new neighbors, they have previous ties to the community, and we expect them to be here for the foreseeable future. We wholeheartedly support them and this proposal. And then we also have a letter from Brendan Glover and Kendall, who live at 49 Parrot Street. We live directly to the left of 47 Parrot, which, as you know, in the village means we are very close proximity to the home next door. We're reaching out to voice our support for the accessory apartment proposal at 47 Parrot Street. Kendall and I have gotten to know the Zimmerman and Lico family over the past 6 months. We're happy to advocate for this project. We have conflicting dinner plans this evening. Otherwise, we would be on the Zoom to express the same. Let us know if you have any questions. Thank you, Brendan and Kendall. And the final new submission is from Letitia. Thank you for joining us in person. I'm going to do a summary of what you've written, only because it is very long. But I appreciate all the effort that went into composing this and the detailed research. Essentially, the letter summarizes a number of provisions in the code and concerns about conformity of the plan with respect to those provisions. I think that the thing I want to address with respect to this is that one thing that's really important for the group here to understand is the role of the planning board is not to assert the validity of a site plan proposal from the code conformance perspective. That is the job of the code enforcement officer, the building inspector. And that being said, if there are substantial, if a plan comes before this that is obviously non-conformant, we can make note and make a reference and refer that either back to the building inspector or to, the zoning board to, grant a variance on the way in which it is non-conforming. So that's just that is just, some contextual note on that. And, but I really appreciate all the detailed research that you did and submitted to the board. And, we've all had a chance to read through it and, I've made note of it, so thank you. I will say that the code does give the planning board discretion on interpreting certain parts of the code explicitly. As an example, there's a provision with respect to ADUs that's about dens, about whether or not a den is permitted in an ADU. And it's at the planning board discretion, whether a den is considered potentially an additional bedroom. The reason why it's at the planning board discretion is that we would not want to entertain a site plan that has, is essentially a 3-bedroom, but where 2 of those bedrooms are labeled as dens. So there is some discretion on looking at a site plan and bringing some reasonable judgment. That site plan is this a bedroom in disguise or is this a den? So that is, that's a place where the planning board is able to exercise some explicit discretion that's afforded.
May I ask where it says that the planning board may exercise discretion, because it says quite clearly in the code, the way it's articulated, there's no word of, no description or mention of discretion.
There is actually,
Did you point it out?
yeah, it's in provision 11.
I'm looking at that.
Yeah, that in the termination of it ends with such as a den that in the termination of the planning board could be used as a second bedroom.
Uh-huh,
So that's the planning board discretion there.
got it,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay, so, before we,
May I ask a little more about that? How will you determine that it won't be used as that? How, it's like,
basically, would a reasonable person look at the description of a den and say, this is actually a bedroom, or is it actually a den?
what about the unlisted, like mezzanine, that could be used as a bedroom down the line? Like it's listed as a mezzanine, it's not counting towards square footage, though it has a spiral staircase, which is indicated on the floor plan, but not in the elevation for some reason.
So the square footage, tends to be counted as, full height. I mean, that's again where
Again.
the building inspector is
Sure.
gonna actually be the judge of like what
Yes,
counts as
it's
square footage
below
there.
7 feet.
Yeah.
I get that.
So
Yeah.
let me move on for a second. I have some additional questions for the applicant.
Sorry, I would like some more of my letter to be heard by everyone in this room. No one's seen it or heard it, so I feel a little slighted upon that. A lot of work went into going into this, and I think points are being lost by not being heard.
I have a physical copy that if they would like to read
It's
through
a
it.
4-page letter with 13 pages of evidence, just so that's why it's long.
Yeah.
But if I'm happy to speak to 2 of what I think are the most important points, or perhaps read them, or perhaps you can, about the parking and the size. Because I do feel like these things should be voiced out loud.
I understand you feel that way, but we're not gonna do that tonight.
May I ask why?
Well, you're welcome to read it if you want when we get to the public comment portion.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so, couple things to cover with the applicant, and then I think we can reopen the floor to public comment and online. So I didn't see, total square footage listed on the site plan for the ADU. We have total square footage for that?
You know, I should have, I have to, this happened last time, I have to just back it out of my lot coverage, but I can do that. I apologize, I get talking. But because the lot coverage is created by that square footage, if that's what you. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it should be provided to us.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Just like for Stickford's son.
Right.
Yeah, I apologize, that should have been on the site. Is it not on the site plan?
There are square footages listed for individual rooms, but not a total square footage.
Yeah. If you can, I gotta back that out.
So when, at least with, if the numbers are accurate that are on here, if there's some, they come to, I think, like 694.
Yeah.
So the code states that the maximum allowed square footage for ADU is 600,
Okay.
or 30% of the livable square footage of the primary residence on the lot. And I don't think we have the total square footage for the primary residence either.
Okay.
So those are things that are important for us to know. So, given that, I think if you feel like the square footage numbers are accurate on, the ADU site plan proposal here,
Yeah.
then I think you have a couple of options
Yeah.
in terms of what we do next. So, we know, without knowing the square footage of the main house, we know that we're at least over the 600 maximum that's allowed, right?
I think it's listed on the beginning.
The building coverage is listed, but that's not the square footage. Those are
Square
two-
footage, the square footage of the house is all the livable space. And so there's multiple stories.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the building coverage is just the footprint. So just one story.
I read it as being 1637 on page 1 of his proposal.
So that's the building coverage,
Understood. Sorry.
right?
It's used in the lot coverage specifically because it's like you basically,
Sorry, misunderstood.
yeah, understood.
Yeah.
Okay.
So do you mind restating the question?
Yeah, so, okay, so, we're basically in a situation where, as I mentioned before, if we notice something that does seem on its face
Right,
substantially non-conforming, then we need to figure out a path forward
right,
that gets us, so there's two paths that we can take. So we can go to the zoning board, we can refer you to the zoning board and say, hey, look, limit is 600, but we want 694 or whatever it happens to be. We'd like a variance. The alternative is that you revise the site plan to meet the requirements of 600 square feet or 30% of the livable square footage in the primary residence, whichever one is smaller. I suspect they're going to be pretty close together given what the house looks like, but it's important to have the calculation.
And by livable square footage, you generally go by the,
I don't need your argument.
by my drawings or by what the county assessor has?
So I believe that the code specifies, says the applicant shall submit a floor plan to scale of one family dwelling if applicable, and the detached. So I think a standard floor plan that includes square footage that we can look at. I mean, usually it's the exterior, it's the basically exterior footprint of each floor,
Right,
and then the total square footage that occupies.
1764. Okay. So it's slightly over that.
Ethan,
Yeah,
I think the square footage of the house is 1764,
yeah,
and then that the ADU is 685.
yeah.
So 30% is 529.
Well, it can be the 600 or the
It
30%.
actually states
It's
here.
the minimum.
It says the maximum size of an accessory apartment is 600 square feet.
I appreciate it. I need you to please be quiet for now. I'm chatting with the applicant.
So you don't necessarily have to sort the numbers out while we're here tonight.
Right.
but-
Yeah. The fact is, we need the numbers to be concrete so we can have a discussion about them, or we can decide what the path is forward. So, we can come back with an amended, site plan that has the numbers, but that are non-conforming, in which case we'll do the referral to the zoning board.
Okay.
Or we'll come back with the square footage that is conforming, and, we proceed.
Okay. Let me just. I appreciate you bringing that to our attention. So is that a distinction that we would make?
It's a choice. You can ask for a referral and keep the plan as is.
Okay,
We can't move forward with a non-conforming site plan.
okay.
That's the problem that we're in right now. So we can't move forward with it as it is. So we can either modify it so that it is conforming and we can
Right.
move forward, or we can say, yeah, this is a reasonable request and I wanna try my luck in front of the zoning board to see if they will grant a variance for it.
Okay.
And you can take time to discuss
Yeah.
it, you don't have to decide right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. Okay, so, I want to open the floor to public comment. I'll ask folks, try to add new things to the conversation. I think we had a really great discussion last time. We've had additional good discussion this time, but, please, just stick to adding, new and just also be mindful of, the number of people here and the time. So, someone like to go first?
I would happily
should.
go
Go
first.
Please state your name and your address.
I'm Letitia Lee Duarte McCubry. I live at 45 Paradise Street. From my understanding, the planning board has to address the access, parking, lighting, and exterior building modifications. So lighting has been addressed. It's great. Access, I'm just gonna read this. 134-17M4 requires unobstructed access to and from the street shall be provided. Such access shall consist of at least one 10-foot lane for parking areas. This is physically not possible with the proposed addition, as the existing driveway is less than 10 feet. Should this driveway be considered a second parking as indicated and a car is parked there, it is impossible to pass. The space between the main dwelling and the property line is 9 feet. A third of that space is in level, so I've never seen a car physically parked there, and nor can one. And then to discuss parking, 134-17G9 states one off-street parking space is required for an accessory apartment. One parking for the main dwelling and one parking for the accessory apartment. 134-17M2 states the driveway within a required yard for a one-family or two-family dwelling may count as one parking space. The proposal showed 2 parking spaces. This is not to code. Even if it were permissible to consider the driveway as 2 parking spaces, the driveway would need significant modifications to allow cars to access it as required by the code. I'm not going to read the rest because I think that point has been made. And then I would like to speak to the landscaping, and I appreciate very much indigenous landscaping that improves pollinators and pollinating gardens. So I think the proposal is beautiful. I have 2 issues. One is red chokeberry is poisonous if ingested to young children and to animals, both of which I have. So I'm not super into that. I do think everything else looks great. My biggest issue with the landscaping is that the garage is less than 2 feet from my house. So there's no way to put something tall between us. But in the proposal, there's no addressing the privacy whatsoever. that giant window that looks directly onto my play structure is not being addressed. Here's a picture of how close it is to my play structure. And that's in the floor plan. That is the dining room living space. That's the gazing window, as you referred to it. There's nothing that stops that. And I feel quite upset that this was something I spoke to and articulated very clearly in the last meeting. This is the window I have big concerns about. Nothing, just some beautiful winter fern, aster, and a couple other beautiful pollinators. So that is a major issue for me. The privacy has not been addressed in the biggest window. The smaller windows are concealed by these shrubs, and that's great. But yeah, either the window has to be frosted with, not with film, but like actually frosted glass, so neither of us have a view, or plugged, which sucks, or a fence, a solid wood fence put up, and in which case I get to enjoy none of the nature and completely ruins the charm of the space. Like, the charm of the space is the old building with the rambling plants, and yes, the forsythia, I understand, is only good for a certain amount of time, but it's nature that's being replaced with giant building that's an extension of a non-conforming building, which baffles me that that's permissible. That you can extend a non-conforming building baffles me.
Just for clarity on that point, extending, as long as you're not extending the dimension that is non-conforming, it is allowed. So in this case, the non-conformance is the encroachment on the side yard setback, but the building is being built out beyond that. So basically, it's not continuing, it's not taking
It is
existing
still
non-conforming.
Which is why I didn't raise it in the letter. However, it is making a bigger non-conforming building.
Well, it's not really because the addition is conforming.
Yes, but once the addition is made, it's no longer called an addition. It is one building. Therefore, it is not a non-conforming building. It's just a bigger one. Because it's not, you don't delineate between the garage and the addition after it's built. It's the ADU, and the ADU is then ultimately.
It's all evaluated in the dimension of its non-conformity. So it doesn't change the state by adding conformity to the building.
I understand.
Yeah.
It's just a bigger non-conforming building. That's just the fact. All right, then exterior building modifications. I would like to, I'm skipping over this part over here. That window is a big deal to me. Like, really, my privacy is invaded. I'm not happy with it. So either they have to build a big fence, which I really am upset about, or I don't know, plug the window, frost the window. But to speak to exterior building modifications, I don't see heating, cooling, radon, condensers. I don't see anything indicated. And these are all part of the exterior building that will likely face directly onto my property. I'm going to be looking at the vents and the fans and hearing the noise pollution and not the beautiful butterflies which make no noise. I would like to see where these condensers, propane tanks, and exterior vents will be placed. I'm concerned about the noise from any potential radon mitigation, as the current system is loud, and it has been established that this property has high levels of radon. There'll be potentially a second unit, further causing noise pollution. And should this ADU permit be approved, a much quieter system with a smaller fan needs to be installed. And we've discussed the dwelling size, and I do think it is important to highlight that the code does state accessory apartments shall contain no more than one bedroom and no room such as a den that can be used as a second bedroom. So I know that is at your discretion. There is in fact a room that is listed as a study or den. So that is questionable in my opinion. Also owner occupancy when a permit goes in. No one is living in the house right now. The noise of all of the construction is going to be invading my life. No one else is living there. I live there. And though I appreciate that the other neighbors on the other side, are in support of it, it is not bordering their property. It is on the other side of the pool, so it is not affecting them to the extent that it's affecting me. 1.8 feet, guys. It's not far away from my house. And then, yeah, there's a part of the code that I don't fully understand. That I, 134.19H. And though I don't understand it, I do think it needs to be like weighed into. A garage is a non-conforming building. The proposed addition extends, enlarges, and alters the non-conforming garage. 134.19H states that a non-conforming building may not be reconstructed or structurally altered during its life to an extent exceeding the aggregate cost of 50% of the fair value of the land and building as determined by dividing the assessed value of the land and building by the equalization rate unless said building is changed to conform with the use and area regulations of the chapter. I don't fully understand what that means, but I think it should be addressed in some way. Like, there's a bunch of stuff here that's gray, and I'm clearly not in favor. So the one thing I want to end with, and Sam, I really mean this, you have a beautiful home. I want you guys to be happy there. The basement is the ideal place to bump out at the back. I end this letter saying, I would love to see a revised proposal, and I know that that is something that costs, but I would love to see that as it realistically, it has plumbing, it has water, it has toilet. If you bumped out the bottom underneath the washer dryer, that's a beautiful livable space with massive windows that doesn't further impact the neighborhood. So I just think, and I think I worked it out when I imported the floor plans into AutoCAD, like the square footage of that is also almost 600 square feet if you bumped out the bottom. That has a very minor impact on the community and on us. And so I would have, when we first discussed, you were either going to finish the basement or look at making the garage livable. I didn't realize the extent. And I just wish that the basement had been explored a little bit more because yes, there are areas that can't be because of the plumbing and the boiler, I get it. But that would have much more minimal impact. So I want the building, if it does go through, it absolutely has to be to code, and that is really of utmost importance. There are other things that I say in the letter about parking and sewage, but I want to let other people speak. So thank you.
Thank you for both the effort and the time, and for also making smart strategic edits in your reading. So I appreciate that a lot. On the code can be confusing at times. I think that last part is primarily addressed at, like, you can imagine, like, we have a lot of old buildings in the village. Imagine something being damaged substantially in a fire, like to where it's a ruin. It basically saying, look, it's non-conforming, it's basically ruined. You can't build it back in the non-conforming way. You need to actually build it back in a conforming way. Is that a fair read on them? Yeah. Yeah. So that's the purpose of it. So I wouldn't say that it's applicable in this particular case, but that's the utility of it in the code, is to make sure that, like, you can't say, oh, well, my old non-conforming building is mostly destroyed. I'm going to build a brand new one, taking advantage of whatever existing non-conformities used to be there. And
Sure.
Yeah.
I think it's more complex than that, though, some of the verbiage, because it speaks of aggregate value and
that's about the amount that's been for example, in a fire, if it's like small fire, it's okay to rebuild. A large fire, it's not okay to rebuild, right? So that's the balancing test there. All right, let's move on. Is anyone else in the room that would like to speak?
Yes.
Say your name and address.
Yeah, Wayne Robinson, 55 Parrot Street. Since I live a few houses down from where the proposal has been made, I was not informed of the original meeting. So I'm not quite sure exactly what they are doing. So just a brief if I could just have a brief overview of what the structure's gonna end up, is it 1 floor, 2 floors, 3 floors?
That was some of the purpose of the initial presentation. It's a 1.5 story, extension out of a existing pool house structure.
Okay, fine. I'm very familiar with the sewer line because I'm the low man on the totem pole at the moment. And there has been backups on that line into my basement. So I'm very familiar with it. That piece of plastic or pipe is between my house and my neighbor's house up the street where there was a tree root that went down and broke the pipe.
Yeah.
Right? Also was aware that history has it, the residents of Parrot Street are the ones who put that line in. That's why there's no documentation of the line where it goes.
Yeah.
I know, it used to be Mr. Weesy's house, there was a, clean out and they ran lines down there, but they still don't have it mapped out to where it is. When they changed the structure on, John and Amy's house, which is on the corner of Parrot Street, and built their garage, or rebuilt the garage, I made sure that they understood that the line ran through there somewhere. So I'm a little concerned with the sewage and how they're gonna tap in and what happens down the road, because like I say, I'm the low man on the totem pole, and when it gets stuffed up,
Yeah.
here I am with a big cleanup
Yeah.
going on, so I do have a concern about that. Also, I have a question. Right now, yes, it's for parents, or I believe, right? What happens when the parents are no longer here? Because we'll all disappear at some point. Does that become a legal apartment?
So the usage of the accessory apartment is governed by the short-term rental law, like that exists. In other words, it couldn't all of a sudden become viable for using for an Airbnb or something like that. As with any accessory apartment in the village, long-term renters are allowed.
Okay.
That's just adding neighbors. So that would be technically allowed under the law, but
But it's one thing, an adults, and another one, kids moving in presents another problem. So I would have a concern about ultimately where it's going.
sure.
I may not be around, so I may not care that much, but that's another story.
Well, we hope you are. Thank you. And just a note for the group, in my monthly update to the village board, I made note of some stuff that came up last time. I made note to them about the sewer, the concerns about the sewer. Just so that the mayor and the village board was aware that it was brought up, and also the concerns about enforcement of the short-term rental law and potential illegal use of ADUs as short-term rentals. So I passed both of those along to the village board. So they have that. Hopefully, as they hear it from more sides, they will take it seriously if it ends up being.
Can I ask you questions?
Please.
Roger Cherville, 43 Parrot Street. I talked to the sewer inspector there, or the Matt. And I've been here a long while. I've had a lot of problems with that sewer. I don't know, Wayne, we're talking about 40 feet of plastic sewer. There's no line in there at all.
Yeah, no, when they took down the tree and found where the line was
They
broken,
replaced it with that?
yes.
Yeah. Well, like I mentioned before, I'm probably here the longest on there, and I've been in politics here, so I know what it costs the village to repair, each individual. And the code here is you're responsible from the sewer, from your house to wherever it goes. Goes to the main of the street, you pay for that, the homeowner. Same way in my backyard, it's all on our property. Nobody's ever beat myself, even I was the mayor here for a while. I tried to have it changed where it's the responsibility of, from the curb cock to the main, never worked. So anyway, my point is, you can't piggyback on anything that's there. Did anybody take the elevation of where he wants to build a house to the sewer main that's in there? And you can't piggyback on the house, that's a law. Secondly is, same with the water.
Yeah, that's.
Water has to go from the main, from the street to the apartment. I don't know if I'm giving you information, but they're facts.
Okay.
You know, I want to help. I'd like to see the man.
Yeah.
Get rid of it, but, I've had a main break there in my backyard, and the biggest problem is every two houses go together before they hit the main.
Why?
What happened to me was the elevation of my neighbor's house is higher than mine. So when the line plug passed the Y, it backed up the Y within my basement.
Yeah.
It won't be a lot of money, not once, twice. I have a clean out of my yard, just to really explain it, what should be, I think should happen there. This pipe is 200 years old. And it wasn't done by homeowners, it was done by the foundry years ago. That's the first foundry development on the Hudson River. Now, before we let more people on, he's gonna have to pump. I know the elevation's lower. I know myself. But that's for the sewer inspector to inform us.
Yeah.
But there's no clean outs back there. You have to tear up somebody's yard.
Yeah.
Which is our property.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't need that slush and whatever. Now, we're gonna do something to repair this. There's gonna, nobody ever told anybody, don't build your garage on it.
Right.
People got swimming pools on there. Nobody ever knew who it was, you know? So the situation now is, if this should ever go ahead, we're gonna demand, me and myself and the rest of us on the street on that side, we're gonna demand either they put us to the street in the sewer, and there's only one, and we get rid of that one in the backyard, or they're gonna take the responsibility of repairs back there. That pipe is clay. It's not plastic.
Nope.
And there's no clean outs. The only clean outs are there like myself. I had a
I think Mr.
problem.
Weezy had one, and
Yeah.
there's a pipe coming up out of the ground. and
I mean,
right in
it's
the yard.
not a manhole thing.
No,
If it was a break at Wayne's house, it would back up all the way 30 houses up the street, dumping in the first one, it had gravity too.
Yep.
Now, this here's my business. I've been in this business all my life, you know. The excavation, highway, whatever.
yeah.
But, I can see the problem coming before that pipe breaks.
I appreciate that, and as I said,
I know you can't answer me tonight because I talked to Matt,
Yeah.
and he didn't get with you.
Yeah.
well, so I just wanna say that like, with respect to this application, that is, the sewer is not a thing that we can directly consider. So I've done what I can in representing to the village board that it's a serious concern of the residents of Parrot Street.
Because if you can't get on the sewer, why are we all here?
Yeah,
Yeah.
if I may add to Roger, if 25 more properties all add ADUs, because this sets a precedent,
See,
the burden
That's the other thing.
it is going to be infinite, and then it's on the residents and not the village. This is like infrastructure that is lacking to accommodate this new code that will build.
I understand the concern. It's literally just like not a factor that we can consider in our decision.
But I mean, you know, if we're gonna do something here, they want to answer, we want to answer back first. We don't want the responsibility of damage.
Yeah.
And the insurance company won't do it. They won't pick it up.
I understand. I can't provide you that answer, and it can't be considered in the context of this application. So I would highly encourage you, now that I've also communicated to the village board the concern, that you take the energy that you brought here today and talk to the village board about it, about the concerns.
I will, but if I can ask, the beginning of 13417G states that accessory apartments should have minimal impact on the community. And it's character and resources. Is a surge not a resource?
Well,
To me, it's a basic resource, like, but literally the most basic. So to me, it does fall under the planning board, because it literally says community,
that's what I was
character,
gonna say,
and
Alexa.
resources.
I think the answer has gotta be here with you people. You can't go forward.
I hate the idea of this just trickling down to like, oh, the zoning board, oh, and then we're all literally going to be down the line,
That's right.
have a real stink, truly, on our
So-
hands. I just, one gets approved and then there'll be more and more. And this, I know that 3 owners ago at 45 Parrot and Barbara, the previous owner who Sam and Lindy bought from, had a huge issue. And they had to have the whole yard, like where it was, dug up at their own expense. And it was just 2 homes.
Right.
So, like, it's
Just, I want to make sure we get to other folks in the
okay.
room.
I just wanted, I'm sorry, I won't say anything else.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kathy Bogardus, 26 Parrot Street. I just want to state for the record, our garage, and perhaps I would want to make it into an ADU. And I think it is, it's not just this application. I think the planning board has to think about the future as well. So I just want to state my disappointment in the planning board and the zoning board and the village board for changing the zoning laws. And when my husband and I bought our house in 1994, we specifically looked for R1 zoning, single family dwelling. And that was incredibly important to us. And I think that's the case with probably all of us here who have been opposed. Again, I think Letitia and I are on the same wavelength, that if you approve an ADU on our street, that there'll be more that come through. And that impacts our parking, impacts our water, impacts our sewer, which are already delicate. And I just want to put on the record my disappointment in the in our village officers for not being protective of our future.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anyone else in person? Anyone online that would like to make comment?
If I may, I'd just like to add a couple of points. My name is David Breen. I live at 35 Parrot Street. Thank you for clarifying the role of the planning board in your earlier remarks. I just want to confirm my understanding of next steps is correct. So I think you laid out 2 options. One is that the applicant revised their proposal, particularly with regard to its overall size, so that it is conforming with the code, at which point they could come back to this forum, the planning board. Or alternatively, they could keep the proposal as is and take it to the zoning board for appeal. Is that correct?
Yes.
And just to confirm then that latter option, the zoning board, that's a public forum as well, right?
It is.
So we'd be offered the opportunity to share our feedback at
Yes, 100%.
meeting as well. Great. I don't want to belabor the points that have been made already, but I do want to emphasize or make clear that legitimate concerns have been raised here this evening. And while the planning board might not be the appropriate forum for all of those questions and concerns, they are legitimate nonetheless, and they deserve to be heard and they deserve to be considered. And so I think that's I think we want to make sure that we are offered that opportunity, and that the village is in a position to respond and address those concerns. One specific point I would just like to raise is related to the parking. So if the applicant is to return to either this board or to the zoning board, I think I would like to request further details on how the ADU's additional parking space will be accommodated. I think has been noted and is very clearly illustrated actually in the photographs that were shown earlier on, that the parking space proposed does not appear to be feasible without substantial alteration to the front yard and the existing driveway. And I don't believe that the plans as submitted show all of the mechanical and electrical infrastructure which is attached to that side of the building either. Doesn't show the meter, doesn't show the radon meter either, all of which eat into the space. And so I'd like to request that whether the proposal goes back to this board or to the zoning board, that a more comprehensive plan of the parking layout is included so that we can ensure conformity with the code.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Anyone else online?
I have a question.
No, we gotta wait for the end of public comment, right? Or well, I guess you could go now.
Well, I think it sounds like we're kind of to the end of everyone's comments, so I think, feel free to go ahead.
What is what gross floor area? Is that some of the rooms or is that the outer dimensions multiplied together?
Which outer dimensions, like the outer walls, you mean? Or-
Yeah,
Yeah, so it would be the total interior square footage.
total interior. So it would be the outer walls minus the thickness of the walls.
Presumably, yeah.
So the maps show the A110.1 shows the existing garage as 21 by 21 with pretty thick walls. And then the ADU is basically 25 by 17. So the outer wall size of the garage is 440. And the outer walls of the new piece is 425. And that's like 860. And don't know how thick those walls are. But I wonder if even the maybe 694, maybe that if you subtract out those walls.
The front walls are almost 18 inches.
Are they?
Yeah.
So that would be like 19 and a half squared.
And can I propose that I think we need
Yeah, I
a
don't think you can get
formal,
that stuff.
we need a formal estimate.
Okay,
and
sure.
an updated site plan.
Okay.
I think speculating at this point is not gonna be fruitful.
Got their whole house down anyway.
I do think there were good points brought up many good points in this letter. It's the most comprehensive letter that we've received to date. And I think it really, not only on this project, but on any project. And I really appreciate all the work that you did. You pointed out stuff that is very pertinent to this project, but also the board is now gonna probably reassess and talk with the village about and some of the things that you have here, because this is the type of stuff that we need to see of what's important to the community. You know, we are just here as citizens trying to, fulfill whatever the requirements are to make sure that we're not going to put something forth that is obviously egregiously against the rules. But as the chairman said, we are here for specific matters of planning board. The exterior building modifications, does that include stuff like she had brought up for where the radon machines are going to be, the mitigation system? Like, yeah, for these things, is that part of our?
Yeah, I mean, if they're gonna be,
Because it's because if we're gonna redo this, or if this is gonna be redone, I think that that's something that should be put in here too, of where these, it just says relocate existing pool equipment. But I would think that you'd wanna have definitive where these things are gonna be moved to, because if there's an existing radiation mitigation system, and this plan is gonna move that because it's closer to the original structure, then we're gonna have to see where the new one is going, where the plan is on that. And maybe it's on here, maybe I'm missing it, but if it's not, I think I would like to see
the
it.
one on the main house.
On the main house, so does the main house have to be, it doesn't have to be moved at all?
Although I imagine the new property would need another one. There's,
Yeah, we actually haven't specifically explored radon mitigation for this.
Right, if
There's
there's
other
something
ways
where,
to do it with like a thick vapor barrier, vapor and air control barrier on your slab. A lot of times in these old houses, they're so porous that you need that, but if on a new slab, it can be eliminated. The need for it can be eliminated by eliminating airflow through the slab. But that's something that we can definitely address specifically.
to make sure, just to say this, that what you have is the existing, just relocate the existing pool stuff, and there's gonna be no extra as it would pertain to this, would be exterior building modifications that would be put outside, other than what
propane
you're
tanks,
doing here.
condensers, right, all that stuff.
Yeah, if there's a central air, if there's gonna be something there, or if there's gonna be a propane tank that's gonna be, that's gonna be a part of the house, it's gonna provide the heating or whatever it is, like that should be something that I think would be included in this, because it would add to the footprint, and that's something that should be under our purview, if that's
Sure.
gonna go in there.
I wanted to clarify because my my understanding of the gross square footage was the interior, and I think you were clarifying that's where the 693 comes from. So I want to confirm. I don't know
The
if this is,
694 was a calculation I made based on your, floor plan, where I added up.
no, I know that was also mine. But yeah, I just wanted to confirm from
Yeah,
you that.
I don't know if the code specifically spells out how to calculate it, but however you as an architect would calculate interior square footage, that's what it's referring to.
Yeah, so
I think the spirit is usable square footage within a space. I mean,
Yeah.
I think it's the spirit of the code, so. It seems unfair to include the thickness of walls, because the exterior footprint of a structure is considered in the lot coverage. So they're kind of like two different dimensions that are being addressed within the code,
Right.
so.
is there, I don't know if this is the forum, can I ask you a question or?
Yeah.
I don't know if this is the forum or it's something that's more needs to be addressed elsewhere. I wanted to address the parking question, because in my professional experience, our job would be to show the existence of the parking as defined, the 9 by 18 side lot plot, I guess you could call, on the site plan. But I think you had brought up some other dimensions that you were.
Well, I brought up the fact that the code says a driveway can only be considered one parking, and on your proposal, you considered it two.
So this is, I don't want to get into.
Except for a corner property.
I don't want to get into the reading of the code here, because again, this is.
Yeah,
We're not the body to adjudicate that. Like, one of the reasons why the code enforcement officer kind of goes to the site, looks at the plan, makes a determination, is because they're the ones that ultimately decide that. Now, I think, like, in this case, what I would expect is that those two spaces they were considered as a part of this, so.
That was my understanding. That's why I just wanted to know if you all had a input, because my understanding was that there was a concern only one could be in front of the building. The front
plane of the building, the front yard, that's my understanding, is that in front of the front plane of the house.
Yeah.
You can have only one space.
And Bouchard, 48 Parrot Street. Something that's never been brought up is the heating. Is it gonna be all electric? Is it gonna be gas, or is it gonna be oil? If it's gonna be gas or if it's gonna be oil, then that means somewhere along the line, there's gonna be a propane tank or an oil tank. So where will that be placed on this new addition to the building?
Do we have any mechanical allocations here?
No, the current plan would be for it to be all electric. You know, it's, in any of these cases, it's been, so no propane or oil tank. But that's something we can make more clear.
Right.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board? Hillary, you're online. Is there anything you would like to ask? She's still here.
No, I think everyone covered.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna suggest that we adjourn for now.
Yeah, so and what I would also suggest is that the board vote to make the referral to the ZBA. That doesn't obligate the applicant to go to the ZBA, but it just gets that procedural step out of the way. So if they choose to go to the ZBA, they don't have to wait another month to come back and have a vote and then.
That's a good suggestion. Okay, all right, so I guess
Can I just clarify that that would supersede our responsibility or I guess, like if they went straight to the ZBA. But if we vote, we could also vote and then give a recommendation to the ZBA whether to approve or not.
That's right, yeah.
we always get,
But that wouldn't be sidestep, that wouldn't pass
This is,
that
this
process.
is just
Okay, I just
the
wanna make sure
referral,
that
so
we
they have the ability.
Okay,
So it's-
all right,
it's
yeah.
not on the-
Right, just so if we had anything to say, we could still recommend.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
would someone like to make a motion to allow the referral of the application of 47 Parrot for an ADU to the zoning board should it be required?
I'll make a motion to make a referral to the ZBA.
And then does it come back to the planning? Will it come back to you again?
Yeah.
All right.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Then we're gonna leave it open.
Yes.
And adjourn.
Yeah.
Okay, I make a motion to adjourn
Public hearing.
the public hearing and we,
What's our next date? Do we know? Do we even have one yet?
that's what I was gonna say, I think it's the first. I think that January one is the 9th, unless they've changed us to go into like that Monday. I don't know.
We've not shifted anything, so I think. we
Okay,
should-
so it's gonna be January 9th. So I make a motion to adjourn until our January 9th meeting and to keep this matter open, 47th Parish.
And just confirm the folks can attend the January 9th. Hillary?
Yes. Yes,
Yes, that works for me.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Do you want second if somebody?
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Public hearing is adjourned.
So you'd rather we met with the village board, with the sewer inspector? No. Well, we can try that, we'll try that.
Yeah, and we're still, to make it clear, this is not a closed matter yet for this board, but our recommendation to you guys is please let them know your concerns too, because it's more than just us.
At the planning board meeting?
No, we won't.
Right to the village board?
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, everyone. All right, we have 40 Main Street amended site plan for parking. Serena, thanks for sitting through.
I understand. I did, if you'd actually bought a house on the other side, you would have been into the street with no problem. Well, I was curious to ask you guys something.
I wanted to let you know, I appreciate you bringing up the sewer. And I wish now I have a video of the whole thing, the inside of it, yeah.
They did like the fiber optic.
Video.
Just ask, we're gonna try to continue.
I'll show it to you.
Here, so if you guys.
They need us to clear out.
They're
asking us to
clear
out.
Got it.
I'll,
Right now,
No problem.
the Ys are there. Yes. Right, going into the main line. As long
I think we
as-
could have done yours first and.
I don't have it.
I'm here for you.
At least right there.
Okay, so as a reminder to, well, hey, excuse me, would you guys mind going outside? Just, we gotta continue going.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hillary's still with us online. As a reminder of where we've been to, so we have, our property at 40 Main Street specifically, the office section that's behind, what is there in the, that it's adjacent to the, Main Street. The applicant is seeking to amend the site plan to basically, take advantage of, the new code's parking requirements, which induces fewer parking spaces, based on, versus what you previously were required to have. The applicant has requested, the planning board make a referral to the village board, for, 8, spaces, to be waived. The requirement of 8 spaces, which is all the spaces that are required based on the square footage, to be waived, and that's where we are. Correct me if I missed anything or misrepresented anything.
I don't think so. I mean, my understanding is there was a request for, there was a discrepancy in the architectural plans and you requested new drawings. So I had a little back and forth with, John First, who's the other town attorney.
Yeah.
Just trying to get clarity on exactly what you wanted, so I can try to make sure I'm getting you the right thing. So, we were going back and forth until yesterday, so obviously I don't have drawings for you today, but I thought it would make sense. Maybe I'll tell you what I understood that he told me you want, and then you tell me if it's right. Okay, so my understanding is you want, signed, sealed drawings showing all of 40 Main, the entire square footage of 40 Main and the square footage of the office space in the back.
Yes.
Without deductions for unusable space, so, okay. And also showing on those plans the new parking, the parking requirements under the new.
Yeah, that can be just like a table calculation of like, okay, it's literally just the square footage divided by the, what is it, it's like.
I think it's
by
2
6.
spaces for every 1,000 square feet.
Right, okay, yeah.
Okay, so as long as I know that's what I need, that's what I'll do. I just want to make sure you know there's no changes at all to the original submission other than the parking. So nothing changed in the building, nothing changing in use, all that changed was the code.
Do we have an old site plan that?
20.
For 40 Main that has the original square footage? So like we've done a kind of a weird circle where.
2021, I think, was when the original drawings were submitted, so nothing changed except the parking requirements.
I don't have that on me. I'd have to do like a search.
Either way, I mean, we still need the new plans because you have to stamp the new plans, so we need a new set.
Would you prefer?
Right. I'm just trying to figure out whether or not Serena can just like send us the digital copy that she sent in 2021 and we can print that and stamp it.
Well, I could do that, but the parking will be wrong, because the parking will be according to 2021.
Oh, sure,
So
okay.
I would love to do that, so I
Yeah.
don't have to
Yeah.
pay an architect again. If I can't, I can't, but you tell me.
Yeah, it will need to show the correct parking calculation.
Okay.
All right. There we go.
All right.
But I do think that, I think as long as we can get that, I'd like to, just because this has kind of been going on, I'd like to go ahead and schedule the public hearing for this so that we can get it on the books. That public hearing will be conditioned on the receipt of this in a timely fashion, but I think we can go ahead and schedule it so we can just all be headed toward the same destination, which is to have the public hearing about it. And yeah, I think we should be able to get hopefully this resolved then.
Okay, that would be great. And
Can I be heard at all possibly? Let me know when I can be heard.
Okay, yeah. Hi, Mr. Lynch.
Yeah, thank you, counsel. I did send to John today, my belief that a public hearing is not required. I don't intend to debate it with you tonight. You have a busy night. I heard one application take a long time, but if you are going to set it down for a public hearing, I would ask that you set it down subject to council, both council looking at that issue and determining if a public hearing is needed. That's my request.
We can always cancel a public hearing. Our read of the code right now is the code does not make a distinction between an amended site plan approval and a regular site plan approval. So for now, we're just gonna go ahead and schedule it, and if we get advice from the village attorney that it's not needed and we can cancel it, as you might imagine, public hearings are not the most fun thing for us to do all the time. So, if the village attorney says that we don't need to do it, that might be something we'd be willing to,
Yeah, I mean, my reading of the code is that one is required, and I don't think that's gonna change, so.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, again, I'm not sure if you saw my email to John. Council, did you see that at all today? or-
I did, yeah.
So we can talk about it. I don't want to take the board's time. I know the
Okay.
chairman loves public hearings, and if we can
Yes,
give him one,
yes.
that's
My favorite
great.
thing. I love hearing the sound of my own voice. That's why I'm the chair.
So, do I coordinate with you, Abigail, to get, I assume I have to send letters to. the
Yeah,
neighbors
it
and
will.
all that?
Yes, so we'll send you a list of the surrounding properties and so I think we confirmed that we have quorum for January 9th. Is that plausible for you to attend?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay, great.
okay.
So would someone like to make a motion to schedule a public hearing for 40 Main amended site plan for parking on January 9th?
I'll make a motion to schedule a public hearing for 40 Main parking for January 9th.
Second.
On in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great.
Could I just add one more thing, please?
Yes,
I know
please.
that John spoke with the chair. We believe we have the universe of all the questions that the board has. If that should change, we'd like to know as ASAP so we can
Yeah,
address.
well, we appreciate, and actually, like, the previous response, you answered very thoroughly all of our questions. We just had this like one thing with the site plan where we can't, it's like, if we look confused and unorganized if we send the village board a site plan that is not representing what we're asking for. So that was the detail there that we need to wrap up. And I think we're gonna wrap that up imminently and we'll be good.
Sounds good. Thank you very much, Chairman, and members of
Okay.
the board.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dennis. All right, thank you.
All right, thank you. I hope you get some sleep.
All good.
Yeah.
All in a day's
I
work.
think,
Yeah.
I think if the other one's January 9th, maybe we could put hers first.
Yeah, we can work on that sequence. now.
Unless you like the theater that goes on here.
No. But I assume if any questions come up, they'll be the same as they were in 2021 and.
Yeah.
Didn't take too long.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Good night.
Good night.
Okay,
Take care.
thank you.
Good night.
All right. Would anyone mind, Hillary, I know that you prepared, we're running pretty long tonight. Would you be okay if we tabled reviewing, your application for now? You're muted.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
Okay, so the thing that actually is quite important for us to cover, because it's very time sensitive, is the Fjord Trail DEGIS has been released. It was released on the 4th of December, I think. And conveniently, it has been released at a time where most of village functions are at a crawl. People are on break and vacation and all sorts of stuff. So it complicates this board's ability to interrogate the plan, provide comment, and produce questions. And for context, the questions that this board produces do have to be answered by the applicant. And the application, the deadline for submitting those right now is February 4th. I believe the village board is either has or is going to ask for extension of that.
I'm not sure. I haven't heard anything
Okay.
about that yet.
All right. The point, but we'll sorry.
There's some public hearing, like the middle of January.
Yes, but that's public comment, which they have to listen to, but don't have to respond to, right? Yes.
Oh, okay.
Versus the comments and questions that we have they must respond to.
Oh, right.
So the planning board is either, I'm not sure off the top of my head, but either an interested or involved agency, so.
Okay.
We're interested and involved. All right, so, the reason I'm bringing this up is like, there's basically, it's a 700-page document.
Yes, I've seen it.
There is, a lot, you know, about 150 pages is pictures, so that should make you feel a little bit better.
Only 600 pages of reading.
Yeah. But it is a lot. There's a lot in there, there's a lot to go through and a lot, to feel like we have done our diligence on behalf of the community to analyze it in a useful way and to provide questions. My suggestion, I have a couple of suggestions, and then I want to hear from the group, but so I have a couple of suggestions. One about a posture that we have towards the document. I think that the planning board is in a unique position to analyze the proposal and what it means for the villagers of Cold Spring. Like, people have been talking, you know, like Philtown locals and everywhere, everyone has an opinion about stuff that they heard, stuff that they heard that someone heard, or they attended a thing one time, or stuff that actually was talked about at, you know, in the data committee, but actually never manifested in the final plan. I think that, like, you know, this is something that's concrete. It's a real thing. It's the thing that they're saying they're gonna do. And it's a thing that we can take and actually say, okay, villagers of Cold Spring, here is what we think this means for you. The literal plan, if implemented as proposed, this is what we think it means for you. And here are questions we have that we think will help us better understand what it means for you. To do that in any kind of reasonable way is a lot of work. And it's a lot of work to get done by February 4th, considering the holidays. There's no way for us, I think, given, you know, how today's public hearings went, that we can expect to make any real progress on this in our normal sessions. So I would propose to the group that aside from that general posture, we also need to schedule a series of special sessions. Special, what do we call them, workshops?
I was gonna say workshops,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, special workshops. Where we really try to tackle the substance of it. And my suggestion is or another part of my suggestion is that, given, I assume I'm gonna be traveling for the holidays. I'm gonna be going to Pennsylvania and Tennessee. It's gonna be really hard for me to meet in order, like, for the week of Christmas and the week after. So if we could possibly meet next week as like, okay, let's get ourselves organized in terms of how we're gonna tackle this. Everyone should at least try to do a scan of the document and figure out, most critically, which are the pieces that are directly relevant to Cold Spring. Because a lot of it's Beacon, and we can, I think, just for the sake of expediency, although it would be great to understand it in its entirety, that we just need to ignore the stuff that it relates to Beacon, because yes, there may be details of it that may, in some lens, impact the villagers of Cold Spring, but I think we just don't have the time to do the full 700 pages. So I would suggest that we try to identify, basically we come back, we identify the sections that we are gonna focus on, and then come up with a divide and conquer plan for those sections. For whoever feels like they can devote the time and energy to it over the following month. Because that's basically what we're gonna have. We're gonna have 1 month to actually compile this. And I think, like, from my perspective, it was at least not very considerate for them to release it on December 4th in terms of how we're gonna respond. So I think for me, like, if we're gonna be rushed, we're not gonna, like, we're gonna ask questions that we think are relevant, but we're not, like, I don't think we need to, you know, do an exhaustive search to make sure that they're not exactly answered in some nuanced way in the text. I think, you know, we need to, like, if we're not gonna get the full time to review, we'll do our best to put together questions that we think are directly answered, will provide us with more information. So, all right, I said a shit ton, sorry, I've said a bunch. I'll shut up and open the floor to people's reactions and thoughts to what I said.
Well, let me just go, because I was on the data committee.
Yep.
Whoopee. So to me, there are multiple points. One is traffic flow through the intersection, Main and Chestnut.
Yep.
So, their modeling people basically viewed all traffic as flowing north on 9D.
Yeah.
They didn't care one bit about cars going down Main Street. That didn't concern them. So there's traffic flow at that intersection. There's pedestrians coming off the train and off the C Street. And then the impact that has with the dockside park terminus for the trail. That's basically it. I expressed some concern that they weren't doing any modeling of car traffic into Main Street, into the parking spots, into the train parking lot, where the dockside point would be an attraction in itself. They just, that wasn't a concern. So
you're saying that wasn't a concern in the DGEIS proposal?
Yeah,
or
in their modeling, they didn't care about that.
I just want to make sure we're talking about the thing that was published on December 4th and not your experience on the data committee.
Well, I assume this is in the DGIS. I have not looked at it.
I understand. I just want to make sure that the only reason I'm emphasizing this point is that we need, there's like the operational discipline to make sure we're using this particular document.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. But basically, there is the north of Little Stony Point.
Yes.
And if you're going to make a demarcation as to what a board of 5 people is able to deal with, I would suggest one thought would be to downgrade north of Little Stony Point as far as what we care about.
Okay.
So it's people off the train, people off the boat, the pedestrian traffic, its impact on Main Street, its impact on Fair, its impact on Dockside. And then there is the traffic flow through the intersection.
Yeah, no, I think that we should keep it to a smaller section, like you said.
Yeah.
If anything is Beacon, we just.
Yeah, like I said, I would
waste our
draw the
time
line,
because that's not our
at
purview.
Little Stony Point.
Yeah, the question I had is what is the planning board's purview of this, plan? Like what could anything that affects the village, I would guess? Yeah, anything. Okay, all right.
And comments exactly like that, is traffic being properly considered,
Okay.
et cetera, et cetera.
So we're not limited. We can, anything that affects the village. Okay, that's great. One thing I want to note is we do have these workshops. Do workshops have to be in person or can they be attended by Zoom? Is there limits? Because if we are traveling, like next week I'm leaving on Saturday. I have meetings. I'm a week from Saturday, and I have meetings in the city Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I'm traveling on Saturday. It's gonna be tight for me to pull out. I could pull out a couple hours in an afternoon probably, but is there any restrictions if we had to do it via Zoom or do a secondary one?
I'll have to confirm, but I believe since you are only meeting and taking advisory action, I don't believe it has to be a public meeting, subject to the in-person requirements, but I'll double check. I don't know if because you're interested or involved, it is subject to the public meeting, the open meetings law, but I'll confirm that.
Okay, because that would be helpful, especially if you're away for a couple of weeks and I'm going away for a week and everybody traveling. Even if we try to get a meeting in person, it would be helpful if we were able to do it remotely at least at the beginning.
Hillary, do you have anything you want to tack on or?
Yeah, I would say that for me, the next week, Thursday is the only day I'm not available.
Okay.
But I certainly can try to do Zooms Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday,
So
weekend.
Is there a day next, you said what day?
I could do Monday, I can't, and I could do Friday. I
could
could
do
probably do
Friday.
Thursday night, but Hillary can't do
Hillary, can
Thursday.
you do Friday?
Give me just one moment.
It would have, but for me, mine would have to be like 4 o'clock or early, you know what, I
You
might
know-
not be able to do, I might not even be able to do Friday. I'm sorry, I didn't,
Yeah, no
like, I
worries.
wasn't planning on trying to get a lot of.
Sorry,
stuff
the
done
19th?
before
Yeah.
Friday.
20th?
20th.
Yeah.
I'm working from home on Friday, so if you needed to meet at 3 o'clock, earlier, I can adjust my schedule. It wouldn't have to be in the evening. If that works.
Yeah, I do have something that evening as well, so I mean, I hate to limit us, but next week I scheduled everything, like I have a board meeting in the city.
Sure.
And then I scheduled the dinner, so I could do Monday, but I could also do 3 o'clock on Friday or 3:30 if that helps.
Yeah, I could do 3:30, no problem on Friday.
Helpful for,
I think I might be able to swing 3:30 on Friday.
okay.
I think let's plan on
How
it.
long do you think this should go?
So I think the goal of this should be just to get people unblocked to be able to be independent over the break.
Okay.
So like, I think Henry, if you want to come with, because you're familiar with some of the structure already, maybe I'll try to do a digestion to come to that Friday meeting with like, okay, here are kind of logical
Okay,
kind
sure.
of partitions in the space, and here's ways we might divide it up, and here's the way they might relate to one another. So maybe like if you and I have sections that are highly related, maybe
Okay,
we
sure.
we just recognize that and make sure we on the next meeting that we have more of a conversation.
Sure.
So it's probably be an hour or something like that. I just
I
gotta
think-
make
yeah,
sure I
yeah.
have something that night. I just wanna make sure.
Yeah,
I'm
I think
able to
I think we should be able to get to some productive plan in an hour. But please, if everyone can take time to review the document, at least in its broad structure, and even if it's like reading the headings of the chapters,
Yeah.
just something that kind of gets you oriented to it in advance. I think that'll make the Friday meeting go a lot faster. So,
Okay,
so
I'm gonna.
I have one other suggestion too.
Yeah.
I have like that. I don't know if it helps, but I'm available that Saturday. I don't leave until that night. So if it's tougher, I could do Saturday morning too. Just putting it out there.
I could too.
If it needs to be longer.
all right, well, why don't we plan on Friday?
Okay.
If we get through that and we decide it would be super helpful to have a quick follow-up, then we can do again on Saturday. What is what is the notification requirement about these things? Do we need to post that we're doing it on the village calendar in like 24 hours in advance or something? Or-
Yeah, I'll have to, like I said, I'll have to double check. If it's not a public meeting, you may not have to.
Okay.
So I'll have to check that first, but.
Okay, so, but I guess for now, so we said did we say 3 PM or 3:30?
3:30.
3:30. So 3:30 to 4:30 on Friday the 20th. Jonathan to confirm about whether or not we need to post about it.
Right.
And what, what lead time we need to post about it. Ben said he was available. I know he's interested. All right, I include everyone on that.
And if I have to leave at 4:30 and you guys continue on, then I don't think.
Yeah,
that's a problem, right?
my main challenge is that like baby duties come up like pretty fast at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds like a plan. Please review in advance. To some degree, it's a big document, don't kill yourself, but try to get some working knowledge of the structure so we can have a productive discussion.
Jesse,
Yeah.
dumb question. Where do I find this document?
If you search Fjord Trail DGEIS,
Right,
it takes you to their website where they have posted it, where you can
okay,
download a zip file which contains the PDF,
okay,
which is, like 160 megabytes.
okay. I did Google it. I am on their website, so I'll just look a little harder.
Yeah,
Thank you.
If you go, it's right there on the hhft.org.
Mm-hmm,
It's boom, it comes right up.
okay. Thank you, Henry.
John, is there anything you'd like to add to the board's consideration of this?
No, I think you guys have the right idea.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
like I say, this is just the first of a couple of meetings, so.
Yeah. Okay, okay, the last thing I'm just gonna remind folks about, the link, oh shit, we still have the meeting.
I miss.
I mean.
Well, who is it we should do if we have the four of us, if there's anything with Ben not being.
All right, I think, does anyone feel strongly that we should do it right now?
That'll be
Yeah.
done.
The workshop? Is that a thing?
That, they should do it the public meeting, but I mean, I don't see why they can't wait until.
Okay. It doesn't mean we don't need more next time, but we'll wait.
You can,
But like we're much older than you. Our ability to remember that far back is not great. So,
Under the assumption that mine is like.
here you can save them. right?
yeah,
Yeah, I got you.
yes. Okay. Would someone like to make a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, okay, thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Have a good night.
See you Friday, the 20th.
Right.
Thank you.